Oh, our album is chosen by
Yeah,
Mike.
show us. Where's your out? Oh, you didn't. You don't
Oh,
have it out. Show
no,
us
I
your
don't.
album. Show us this. Talk, talk.
The great artwork.
Laughing
All of
stock.
their album covers.
Yeah, they're actually, yeah, you're right. All their albums have
Oh, great.
fantastic artwork. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the CD is just the picture. It doesn't have the big white border.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, that probably looks better actually.
I like
So-
the-
Okay.
Craig is first.
I'm first with Talk Talk from 1991. Laughing Stock. So it's funny because I actually mentioned to Mike, I said, I thought, because it's a 35-minute drive for me to Overland Park, so I thought, oh, well, I haven't had a chance to listen to the album yet. I'll listen to it on my drive over.
You did say this.
You
It's
stayed
not-
on the road.
It's not a driving album. So I actually I stopped at the gas station and I switched the music. I was like, dude, I can't do it. I can't.
You told me this.
I cannot drive and listen. Yeah, there would have been. It was raining. There would have been an accident. It just wouldn't have been good. So, so I did get a chance to actually sit down, listen to it. I feel like this is an album that I would probably really enjoy to just listen to on vinyl, not streaming. I feel like maybe the experience of putting the needle on and all of that, with a nice glass of wine, maybe some pot, and I don't even smoke pot. But I enjoyed it more than I thought it would. The songs are long. They are very long. There are 6 songs on this album, and it is 43 minutes. Like, these are long songs. The first song, and I must say, Mark, right? Mark, whatever his name is. Isn't it Mark?
Mark
Here?
Hollis.
Yeah, Mark Hollis. His voice is just so heavenly. And I mean, I loved it. This is such a huge, because I have their first 2 records. And I know the third one is when they really started to kind of get into this. This is their final record. It's so different from the first 2 Talk Talk albums. So I'd actually never heard anything but those first 2 records. And his voice is just so heavenly. That first song, lyric-wise, there's not much to it. It's just kind of there. The second song, which was a single, Ascension Day, it was the third single. 6 songs, and 3 of them were released as singles, and they're long.
Yeah.
Ascension Day, I liked it. The guitars and the drums, and then it just kind of ends very abruptly. It's It's over. It's like it's done. End scene, song over. After the
I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to ask if that's supposed to be like that or if that was.
It is.
It's done. Yeah, and we can't blame it. We were listening to it digitally, so we can't blame. Oh, my record's broke, or it's got to skip.
Yeah, no, that's intended.
After the Flood was the first single. There is a lot of noise, a lot of stuff going on in there, a lot of stuff for my brain to process. It's just, and Taphead, which is next, so many more sounds. There's just all these sounds going on, and Mark's voice is not as prominent, as all these other sounds, these guitars and these drums, and so then the Newgrass, that was the second single. The guitars and that snare drum, is that drum going on in that? I don't know my instrument. I'm not. I'm not.
You got it. You
go
got
to college. It's good. It's good. I like it.
With
I like
brushes.
it. Yeah. Yeah, I digging it. And this Nooney, I will like to mention that he says, "Well, aren't you suspect?" for lyrics in the very loud Nooney or whatever. He says, "Well, aren't you suspect?" An answer unread. He was saying suspect, like, oh, that's suspect, back in 1991, all before you kids today thinking everything's so sus and suspect. Mark Hollis was announcing that everything was suspect back in 1991, so shut it. All right. I enjoyed it. I think I'm actually going to probably get it. It's one of those that I think, again, I'm going to have to be in the right mood for it. I'm gonna need some. I'm gonna need some wine. I'm gonna need some beer. Like I said, possibly some pot, and I don't even do that. But maybe I will to listen to this record again. But I gave it gummy. Yeah. I had a bad time with some gummies that I'll share another day. But yeah, not. I don't. I'm kind of afraid of them now. So whatever. So yeah, 3.5 rainbows from this guy.
Wait, how many?
3.5.
3.5.
Yeah. Did it sound like it was a shit review? Because it wasn't.
No. I didn't hear what I just didn't hear what you said.
Oh yeah, 3.5 from this guy.
And anybody that is going to get the vinyl too, from what I understand, you want to research that as well, because some of them, like the US ones, do not sound very good.
Yeah.
Supposedly. Okay. You want to get the UK one. If you're getting a reissue. I don't think it was originally released on vinyl in the 91.
None of their records were ever originally released on vinyl. Yeah.
Well, the first two were.
Maybe the
first.
The ones in the 80s.
Yeah.
The rest. Okay.
I have it. It's My Life.
I got the first two.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Rich
Mike, you have at times said that, some of the items, some of the records that I offer, are challenging. And when I first listened to this, I was like, whoa, what's going on here? Because I was like really unprepared. And I had to listen not only multiple times, I had to go find some places where I could find lyrics, because his lyrics are so definitely sparse. And the music is so soft for the most part. I mean, it's very low key, and his voice is also really low key, and so the instrumentation is on top of it a lot. And so the first time I listened to it, it wasn't like it wasn't a turn off. My reaction was, okay, this is interesting. I need to listen to this more, but I really need to pay attention. And so I started listening again, and the music part was really intriguing, really interesting. I really connected with the music, but the lyrics were still troubling me. And even when I looked them up, and so I was like going all over the place looking for information about what is this record about. And I found a lot of information that talked about its production, the controversy over, how it was put together, that, there was a whole lot of recorded material that never made it onto the record. How he was not mysterious, but basically telling the musicians, you're going to play this in the key of E. And that's all he would tell them, and then recording all this stuff. And but then the lyrics I started to see a pattern. I didn't see it. I actually had to find a website that told me the story. There was then I realized, there's a story here. The first song, Merman, actually the first song and the last song, both, I guess, I don't know from what language, but their literal translation is laughingstock. And so Merman, the guy commits suicide. And then in Ascension Day, he's, ascending. There's all these religious themes going on here. And that was kind of bothering me for a while, not because I dislike songs that use religious imagery, but I am bothered by fake, not fake, but using religious imagery in some kind of, I don't know, pious way. That bugs me. But the more I was listening to how each song fit into the transition and hit the voice of God or whatever, because I guess at the end, God is basically saying, yeah, you killed yourself, but I'm still going to grant you salvation. So there's like this full cycle that was going through it. It took me a lot of listens to
Wow. Yeah.
to
No.
to,
Wow.
to go through that, because his lyrics are so sparse
No, there.
and
Yep.
vague, but the music was just, to me, that was what hooked me right first. But the music is just amazing. I can't imagine what it was like for the musicians to put that together. So I have it on order. I found a copy that was not unreasonably priced, because there are a lot of them out there that are pretty expensive. It could be one of these reissues, so I don't know if it's a good sounding one. I'll have to wait and see. But
I have a reissue that came out about 5 or 6 years ago. It sounds.
Yeah.
Like we said, they're all reissues, but it's just you have to get the right ones.
Yeah,
right.
This is
So we'll see when it comes here. But
this is 2011.
I'm going.
There's 2011, and then there's 2015 or 16, and then there's 2020.
Yeah,
or 22.
Yeah.
I think it had 3 runs, and then both U.S. and then UK are different.
Well, then let me check and
U.S. is the one you want to stay away from, especially the 2022. I know that was one of them that was. I know
mine might be a U.S. one. It's by Bada Bing Records.
Well, this is Bada Bing Records, but it's 2011. I've also never heard of Bada Bing Records.
Bada Bing.
A real reputable company sold out of the back of a van or something.
This is a 2011 one also.
In New Jersey.
Right.
Yeah, this is a 2011 issue as well that I purchased. So anyway.
That's what I have. It sounds great.
Okay. So, I want to give it, I was listening to it online, and I really want to hear it on the vinyl, because I think it's going to even sound richer and more textured. I'm going to give it 4.5 rainbows. I think after listening to it on vinyl, I might end up giving it 5. This is, as you say, this is an album that's right in my wheelhouse. I like this.
Everyone drink.
I like this type of.
We only do that when you say it, Mike, but we'll do it for Richard too.
It's that kind of storyline that carries through, and it was an interesting read and what he was trying to accomplish with this record, and it really even pulled me in more. I really enjoyed this record, so 4.5 rainbows. Can't wait.
Yeah, I remember I mentioned on an album a while back that I didn't like it when they sampled religious chanting and just made it into a dance song, and there was no real value to it, and I got screamed at for that. But so as far as this album,
nobody here screamed at you.
Nobody screamed.
Oh, it was that album, by the way. It was the one where, that one, the Craig one.
Yes, shut your dirty whore mouth and continue.
That doesn't make sense. Just like Craig, I was, I had only heard their second album. I had never even heard their first one, and I have it, and It's My Life, and I've always liked that song. So this was like going from, like, Meet the Beatles to Abbey Road with no in between at all. I listened to it once, and then I read up on it and listened to it again, and then a third time. I liked the fact that these songs were longer. It's a normal length album. It's 45 minutes, but I really like the way that, you really are only dealing with 6 music kind of landscapes as opposed to cutting all these up and trying to make. I can't believe that 3 of these were released as singles. I can't imagine
I
these
was
on the radio.
when you said that they were
didn't know
singles.
that, actually.
I couldn't believe that either.
But really atmospheric, and like Richard said, you got to pay attention. It's not the kind of thing you're flying down the road. You have to pay attention to what you're listening to. but yeah, as soon as it came on and the drum, the snares with the brushes and the whole musical sound, I really got into that. Ascension Day, it's like every song got better than the last one, and then Taphead I didn't really care for because of the horns that come in halfway through. I'm not into those horns with the jazz kind of horns, but I really liked the more of like it's like a very loosely structured. Thing there, but usually you can that can either be horrible or that can work out really well, and it sounds like they made it work really well here, probably because they recorded so much and then only used what worked. I didn't get any of that concept or any of that thematic stuff at all. I was not really paying that much attention to what he was actually saying,
I
because a
think
lot of it is
you would have to look for it if you were like
right.
like
I think a lot of it is kind of vocalizing. He's not really saying lyrics. It's just kind of it's just kind of different. But yeah, I really liked the sound of it. I think it was very atmospheric. It sounded almost like a score, for a movie or something like that.
Oh yeah,
interesting. Yeah.
But and way ahead of it. It sounds like some Radiohead from like 10 years later.
Yeah.
Like past OK Computer. Like what was the one right after
Just
that?
nailed it.
Kid A. It
Kid
sounds
A.
more like that. And this is 1991. And this goes with what I'm saying. You don't have to have cabbage patching and record scratching and drum machines. You can have actual real music in 1991 and make it sound totally different. It doesn't have to be, pop music. And this proves it right here. But yeah, I really liked it. I don't think I would get this on vinyl because it's the kind of thing that I know I would drift off and then wake up 6 hours later to that and a worn out stylus. I have to be really I really am careful about the kind of stuff. I can't have dreamy kind of stuff on records because it happens every time. I need to just get an automatic return turntable, but then you lose the sound, whatever, the sound.
Just use the sativa instead of the indica.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I really enjoyed it. I didn't know what I was gonna was really getting into or whatever. So yeah, with the exception of some horns on Taphead, and I think I've said pretty much. I mean, I mentioned the thing about the vinyl and all that. So yeah, I will give this 4 rainbows.
Wow.
Talk, laughing stock.
You guys.
Mikey's turn.
I honestly, you guys have surprised the hell out of me. I thought for sure, and when we started doing the Vinyl Community Guncles, this was going to be my first record that I picked to review, and I think I went with John Grant. I think might have been my first
guy
one.
at the table. I don't remember his name. He's
at
the table.
John Grant. Because I wanted to stick to gay themes and him being gay and HIV positive, so I went with him. And this was actually going to be one of my picks. Wow, you guys have really surprised me. I absolutely thought all three of you would have panned this record, but I guess that's why we do this, right? So this band, I adore this band, and a lot of people feel that there are two bands. There's the early stuff and there's the later 3 albums. I don't see them that way. I mean, even on their debut, Party's Over, I still listen. I actually listened to this morning, and yes, it is a little poppier, but they were never a pop band. They had pop moments where they could have gone over to the dark side and done pop records. I think they all absolutely had that in their repertoire, but Mark Hollis would never let that happen. I just could always feel this album bubbling throughout their records. You felt that he wanted to do more, and that's why I bring up this record, and I'm going to talk about this record. And I think when you talk about Talk, you have to do the entire catalog, and this would probably, looking back, this probably wouldn't have been the record I picked for you guys. I probably would have chosen Color of Spring I love this record. This is my favorite Talk Talk record. First of all, the artwork is fantastic. Um, this would be my favorite Talk Talk record. It's a little more accessible. It's not out there. His vocals, you hear him start to change, and I don't even know where to begin with this band. He was not mentally he didn't like being a rock star. So when the first couple of albums really kind of hit, and he started to get, they were on top of the pops, and they were always bigger in the UK. They were not as big in the US. But when things started to really hit for them, and he kind of pulled back, and he didn't want that. And so after the debut and with the second album, which I do not have, believe it or not, I used to. I think somebody stole it out of my collection. And that's the one with the big hit that No Doubt covered, which was huge.
Right.
What is it called?
It's my
It's My Life, yeah. Huge. And that was huge in the US, and that's when Mark Hollis started to kind of pull back, and they recorded the album Color of Spring, which just a gorgeous, gorgeous record. Much more accessible than Laughing Stock by far. Then they went and they did Spirit of Eden. Gorgeous, gorgeous record. Very much in the same feel of Laughing Stock. When I first heard Color of Spring and Spirit of Eden and Laughing Stock, I think of them as a 3-album set. They all feed off of each other. They're so beautiful. I dropped it. The atmospheric. A lot of it reminds me of an album that we reviewed with Peter Gabriel, Security. It's about the atmosphere and what the band brings. And I think I said with Security, I think the stars of those albums were the rhythm section. And the star on this album is the rhythm section. Now, Paul Webb has left the album. He's left the band by this point. He was the original bassist, absolutely fantastic bassist. But they filled in. A lot of the players on this album were not on any Talk Talk records. I mean, it basically came down to just him and a couple of studio musicians. I think the drummer is still around.
I think there were like 50 musicians that were recorded, but only 13 show up on the album, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's a crazy amount. Ascension Day, I love, and after the way it Ascension Day, the way it ends, and then it kind of, you don't want to say it goes into After the Flood, because it's such a short, but it does. It just goes in, and it feels like one song. After the Flood is my favorite song on the record. I absolutely love it. Taphead, I'm kind of with you. Taphead's not my favorite record.
Taphead kind of reminded me of some Jimi Hendrix.
There's a little bit of that, yeah. Probably my second favorite. I love Newgrass. It's so, and Rooney. Fantastic. I love that song. Absolutely love that song. And it's the last song on the record. And I just love the jazz drumming. All the drumming carries this record. The drumming is spectacular. And from the very first song, it's all that snare drum that you guys talked about. It has such a impact that you wouldn't ever think a snare drum. Just a simple snare drum. The way it's placed and the way it hits during every song is absolutely spectacular. And it's the same way on the previous 2 records. They're just, I just think these 3 records, their final 3 records, they're masterpieces. They're absolutely gorgeous. They're not what people would think. When people hear Talk Talk, they think of, a British pop band.
Right.
They never were a British pop band. Yeah, they had pop sensibility, but they never went over it. And you could always feel Mark Hollis dragging them back to, we're doing something different. We're gonna, even on the debut, and he wasn't a well man. He made one solo record. They lost their record contract right before this record came out, and so this was signed.
Well, they actually fought to get out of that contract.
Yeah. There was a whole bunch of legal issues, and I think that's why Paul Webb left. So Mark Hollis, he made one solo record after this. I think it's just called Mark Hollis. And he does a couple of songs from Color of Spring. There's a couple of covers, and it's the same vibe as what you hear on these. It's beautiful. It's very well done. And then he was done with the music industry, and he just kind of wallowed off into obscurity. He had a lot of mental illnesses, and he was a recluse for many years. There were reports of him. He was never homeless, but he would come down from the town in England that he lived in. He lived in an estate somewhere, and apparently it was filthy and awful. And he would come down from the estate and just wander around the town. People say they saw him picking through garbage and hanging out in pubs and just never talking to anyone. He had a pretty, I don't know. I don't want to say he had a bad life. He was living his life, but he wasn't. He kind of just went about his way and did his thing, and he passed away a couple of years ago. And I think he was. I wish he had made more music. I wish he had. He's somebody that I wish had other people into his realm, because honestly, I think he was a genius. I really do. I think the music he made and what he had in his head was brilliant. And had he brought other people around him into the studio to create with him, whether it's producers, musicians, whatever, I think they could have brought it more out from him. I just think that this is a life wasted, and he could have made so many great records, so much great music.
It sounds like he's like another Sid Barrett in some respects.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. So I love this record. Looking back on it, honestly, this is probably not the one I would have chose for you guys. I probably would have chose Color of Spring. I think it's the perfect combination of the first two records and the last two records. I think they just meet perfectly. But there's something about this.
I'm glad you did choose this one.
I'm glad you guys liked it, and I'm absolutely surprised that you guys did. Corey loves this record. When we first got together, I turned him on to Talk Talk, and it's hard to turn a 30-year-old gay kid onto Talk Talk, but he loves all their records, and I've always had a soft spot for this record and all of these. So I love this band, and I'm going to stop rambling, but thank you guys for listening to it. And I'm going to give it, it's not my favorite Talk Talk, so I'm going to give it 4 rainbows.
I found a couple quotes by Hollis that I thought were pretty interesting. In one interview, he said about this record, "If you understand it, you do. If you don't, nothing I say will make you understand it. The only thing I can do by talking about it is to detract from it. I can't add anything. Can I go home now?" That's what he said in the interview. And then in another interview, he said, "The record is meant to be listened to in one sitting. And you can't,
absolutely.
Yeah, and you can't appreciate it unless you appreciate it totally unless you do that. I don't think it's asking too much to expect people to at least concentrate on what's there. Actually listen with a totally open mind." So, I mean, he knew he was putting out a record that was not commercial.
Yeah, no, the last 3 records were not commercial. Although I think Color of Spring had a hit. Color of Spring had
Life is what you make it.
Life is What You Make It, which has been covered by many bands also. Yeah, no, this is my Chameleon Day. This is my favorite Talk. But yeah.
So what are we listening to next?
Well, and that was 16 Rainbows for people who are watching that don't want to add it up. So that was a total.
For all of you out there keeping track.
Yeah.
That
would be me and Craig.
Yeah.
And Chris
I've got my list. It's like 10. It's tied with Bob and some others that were 16.
Okay. The next one is more recent and a little more basic rock. This is a new band I just discovered, ordered a record. They're called the Greenhorns. They are from Cincinnati. And the record is called, well, the record is, all right, I don't know if you can see that. It's 4 stars.
So it's just star.
It's a star.
Yeah. But it's easy to find on YouTube, the entire record on YouTube. So it's easy to find. It's very, it's kind of alternative rock that is significantly influenced by 60s rock, British invasion rock.
Ooh.
So, and a little on the blues side. So,
Hi, Terry. What year did
Who are they?
Yeah, what year did this come out?
this came out in 2000. When was it? Shit, I looked this up. Where is it? I think it's 2013. No, 2010. It was released in 2010. The band is from Cincinnati.
And they're called what?
why did I
The
ever
Greenhorns.
I love the artwork.
And it's horns is HORNES.
N-E.
So
I would have spelled it.
I won't say much more about it, but yeah, it's a pretty cool cover.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
How they did it.
Awesome.
Yeah, interesting. I bought it on a lark because I bought a record from a seller who I thought I was ordering a mono version of a record, and they sent me the stereo version, and which I wanted the stereo too, but I was ordering the mono version. So they gave me a deal on the next things that I ordered. So, and this was one of them. I listened to it on YouTube, and he had the copy there. The cover is what intrigued me, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to get it.
So we'll review that next time, and also the tops and bottoms of the year 2000. That'll be fun.
Yeah, Pitten's excited.
I'm excited.
Right, yeah.
Albums to listen to, obviously. I'm going to go with favorite album artwork. That'll be easy to research. So we are the Vinyl Community Guncles. Thank you so much for watching. It's been a pleasure. This has been a longer episode.
Yeah, no, it was fun.
And we will hopefully talk to you again next week. Once again, I am Robert Fithen, along with
Richard at Calvin Wazoo.
Craig's Vinyl Plethora.
Mike at Hub Tunes.
Thanks again for watching. We'll talk again next time.